guys, John Stone from Stone Tyres. Given the fact that both wholesalers and everyone in this room has highlighted one of the major problems of the industry is part-worn tyres, everyone pushes the boat towards government, towards NTDA, towards tyre safe. Would it not be an immediate solution to throttle that supply chain by the wholesalers flat out refusing to supply new tyres to retailers who also sell part-worn tyres? It would disrupt the chain, because if you have someone going to a part-worn tyre dealer for a 285/35/22 and they can't get it, it's got a nail in the sidewall that needs repairing, they can then ring Stapleton's, Mitchell Deaver, put any wholesale they want in and get a replacement tyre. Guess what's happening to that one they took off? It's getting a dodgy repair done on it, it's going back on sale to the public, and the fact that the wholesalers are giving them a new tyre to sell is complicit in that. Thoughts?
Let you have that one, Andy. Unless Jason. Jason.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the guard chap on the end is definitely worth.
Part-worns. We didn't obviously see each other's presentations before this, and it's a good question. Part-worns, my view has always been a tyre's been removed from a rim for a reason. You just don't know why. I do think I also hear about the availability of part-worns starting to become difficult. You know, the fact that we're seeing all-season tyres grow in other European markets that wasn't expected is going to reduce, I think, the supply of part-worns coming into the UK, because it was always that winter-summer switch that would create that supply. How we as an industry answer that question is, we clearly not answered it today. We've not answered it in the past, and we need to. So, Graham, what's your view?
Yeah, I don't know whether us not supplying new tyres to a part-worn dealer throttles the supply completely, because I think there's always a source for it. But what do we do? And just answering it from Pro Tyre, Mitchell Deaver side. So we drill all of our sidewalls so that those tyres don't go back into that market. Now there is a question around part-worns, and is a legal part-worn a bad thing? Think about the environmental aspects and things like that, and it's a controversial subject and something that the industry needs to face into. But the illegal part-worns, the 95% of part-worns that are sold in the UK market, need to be addressed as an industry. We, as a wholesaler, do not actively provide tyres to part-worn dealers, but can I sit here and say we're squeaky clean and there aren't any of our customers doing part-worns? No. But I'm not entirely sure there's many tyre retailers in here that wouldn't fit a second-hand tyre at some point of a vehicle that come off in their own garage and places like that. So it's a real hard one to draw that conclusion and cut it out completely. Challenge is fair, John. How realistic it is to actually do it, I think, is quite hard. But as an industry, for us to get better at it, I think, is the underlying point.
It is a challenge. We met with TRA and BMTA on Monday, and it's something that NTDA has spoken about a lot. At the end of the day, waste is being imported into this country, and it's only when the regulations are applied to those individual tyres that it stops becoming waste. And I think there is something that we need to explore around the import of waste and the application of the regulations properly at the point of import. So, food for thought.
Hi, Joe from Tyre Ops. Again, the same kind of topic of part-worns, but more aimed on the commercial and fleet side, so more for you, Jason, for DTA. Is there kind of any discussions within fleet operators talking about part-worns, especially from COPs, refitting them, D-fleets especially as well? Or are they more concerned about just the environmental perspective that kind of weighs up the benefits of that?
To my knowledge, we've had zero request or demand for that as a service. I'm sure it happens in the real world, but it's not something that we either A, promote, or B, have been asked to, or tasked to do with a customer contract for sure. So not something we've had any involvement with.
Thanks. Hi, Nick Molden, Emissions Analytics. Interested, you talked about the high price of EV tyres, or tyres on heavier vehicles. When people come in and are faced with those higher than expected bills, what do they do? Do they just suck it up, or do they asked to switch down, trade down to cheaper tyres, and is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, thanks. I'm the retailer hat up here. What do? It depends on the vehicle, depends on the consumer, it depends on the conversation that the centre manager or whoever's making that sale to that consumer has. But it's a shock. It's a shock, and it's not just EV tyres. It's someone driving a Nissan Qashqai, for example, that's now running a 19-inch rim that suddenly goes, well, I can afford the vehicle, I can't afford the tyres. That is a trade-down opportunity, but there's also a value conversation that needs to be had with that consumer to support selling the right product for that vehicle rather than just accepting that I'll start with a budget price because they're never going to pay anything in that world. So reality is it depends on the consumer. Yes, a lot of them will bulk and go, have you got anything cheaper? Then it's the conversation. Some of the other things that we do to address that, payment schemes. So spread the cost of that payment over the course of the vehicle. We see quite a big uptake on that, particularly on those larger vehicles with larger tyre sizes or maybe the less prestigious vehicles that people kind of opt into. So there's ways and means to do it, but definitely from a consumer's perspective, it's a tough one to swallow. And they don't expect it. It's a surprise.
Yeah, buying tyres has always been a distress and always probably will be. I think online's got a role to play. You mentioned about it's grown a lot and then it's sort of stabilising. Online is a research tool and always will be a research tool and will grow in that space. So, online's got a role to play in educating that consumer before they've got the shock of going in to have tyres changed.
I've got one that I want to ask, and it's been mentioned a couple of times. One of the biggest challenges, okay, I'll come to you shortly. One of the biggest challenges is around recruitment in the sector and finding new technicians in particular. And we're a very pale, very male, and an increasingly grey-haired workforce. What are your thoughts on how we do recruitment differently going forward in order to become an attractive proposition for whatever stage career you're at?
So I think we've all had to face into it in our different ways, but that making it a career rather than just a job, giving that promotion opportunity, scaling up. So if you take Pro Tyre, we have the academy where you can enter as an apprentice and you can work you all the way up to a master technician with the support of. So it's really painting that career path. We work a lot with colleges to position the industry and our business in particular into those colleges because we've got a shortage at the skilled technician end. So let's create our own, but you've got to position it in a positive career-focused opportunity. We do the same with drivers. If you can join us as a van driver, you can leave us as a HGV driver if you want to. So providing those opportunities and really showing that it's not just about if you come in and you're a tyre fitter, that's the only thing you can do. If you want to do that, that's fine, that's your choice. But having those options is an important part of our strategy in that space.
And again, it makes sense that it's that invisibility of the opportunities at the moment. We're not good at telling the story of just how this can be a lifelong career, whether you're moving horizontally or vertically in the sector. So, good. There was a question at the back, was there?
Hello, it's Jason from Rimmer Tip Top. Just going back to part warns, now I will happily train people to do punches on part warns, but what I will not do is certificate them to gain an RTRT licence. I draw the line there because I do not see part warns as best practice. Is there anything more internally that you guys can do, looking at the cost of tyres now, and the presentation is exceptionally good, Passat, okay, standard tyre back in the 80s and 90s compared to now, and the price is obviously through the roof, but it's not the same product, but it's not the same vehicle driving it. So when we look at things like tyre repair, are you addressing that differently now to how you would, or should you be addressing it differently how you used to do it compared to now? And that involves the cost of that repair as well.
So so we're talking car tyres specifically. Should we be doing more repairs because of the cost or different repairs?
Not so much doing more
Or should we be doing it
repairs.
at all? Yeah.
Not so much doing more repairs, but the quality of the repair. Is it the same? It's a premium product. Does the end user look at that or even realise that the repair really now needs to be driven. It's a professional repair, backed up by obviously things like the RTRT licence.
Yep. Yeah, so us as a business, I'm not sure we've particularly changed our strategy when it comes to repairs over that period, other than it's always been an important part of the training for the individuals that are doing it, and the investment that we make in that they're making the right decision each time and advising the consumer. So has that changed for us? I'm not entirely sure that it has, and I look to my retail ops director over there and he's shaking his head and going, no, it's got the same level of importance that it's always had for us as a business. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. I mean, that 15-inch tyre on the Passat in 98 was still about safety as much as it is today. So I'm not really hearing anything out there that says that's changed. Yeah, it's just a more expensive bill if you can't repair it for the consumer now.
Yeah, I think back to the cost point, and that's an interesting one. So when that consumer has paid a lot of money for that tyre and then they do get a puncture and it's not a repairable puncture and they have to buy another new, very expensive tyre, that's a real tough conversation. There's more friction in that relationship with the consumer now than maybe there was historically. Getting a 175 repaired versus getting that 225, 245 consideration if you've got to buy a new product. So yes, it's a harder one. There's probably more pressure from the consumer to do a repair, but it's educating the guys and making sure that we don't make the wrong choices because of that consumer pressure.
Thanks. James from GFK NIQ. We see the rise of SKUs non-stop, and it's a big issue, mainly for you guys, the wholesalers, who have taken the brunt about investing in new technology, investing in new warehouses. Do we think we should stop the rise of any of the SKUs? How can we do that? And the impact on future? Because I don't think it will stop. I just think it will continue to grow and be a bigger issue for the industry.
I think at some stage it will plateau, but we're nowhere near that yet because we can see what's coming in terms of new vehicles to the market this next few years, and it will explode further. There's not a lot we can do about it. It's heavily driven by the OEMs in terms of the technical requirement of the tyre is now so much greater than what it was all those years ago. So, that front to rear fitment difference, there's real good reasons as to why there's 2 SKUs on a vehicle now. So I think we've just got to accept what it is and cater for it, but there's an education piece here. That was kind of the point I was trying to make in my presentation, which is how do we educate consumers? The tyre is a significant player within within the vehicle, whether it's car, van or truck. So in the truck market, it's known. People understand what the role of tyres, but our job with consumers, though, is to ensure they do understand the importance of that tyre. So it's only going to go in one direction. That's one day in the future, we'll have a few more grey hairs, but it will have plateaued at some stage.